And welcome back to the second segment of our show this morning. As I mentioned, we're going to be segueing into a topic that has to do with cycling and, of course, the upcoming election that is scheduled for this Saturday. That being said, I have been joined on the set by Alexi Ordonez. Good morning. Karen Vernon, she's the vice president candidate, the vice presidential candidate. And let me go back quickly. Alexi Ordonez is the presidential candidate for Team Upward Bound. And then we also have Mr. John Burns, who is the treasurer candidate.
Right.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for having joined us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
There have been a number of developments in the cycling world of late. And what I want for us to begin with is sort of a brief wrap-up or a synopsis of how we are where we are today in cycling. I know that the bid for presidency of the federation has been something that is covered in the news a lot lately because of all these happenings. Let's start by giving us a roundup of what's been taking place.
Okay, let's start off by saying that we were quite concerned about the lack of communication that was happening in the cycling world. For example, there's supposed to be an annual general meeting every year. 4 years have gone by and we haven't had any. So, you know, we decided that, okay, we have to put together a team to get to contest this and get into the cycling world, hopefully get elected so that we can make a change in the cycling community. So we put together a team and we had meetings. We called a meeting with the federation, and through all the meetings and we found out that there wasn't even a legal constitution in place that the Cycling Federation should be governed by. So we had a back and forth with attorneys, their attorneys met with our attorneys, and we had an EGM, which is an extraordinary general meeting, and we had 4 points that we had discussed that we were going to trash out, which was if we were going to vote by individual or slate, the date for elections, what was the other two? And at this EGM, the general membership were actually invited to come and vote. We had a very poor turnout. I know we came up with an election date and that we would vote by slate, what the date would be and all that. So
we expanded the executive from 4 people to 7.
That was the next, So in addition to who is here today, we have Sean, who couldn't make it this morning. He will be our general secretary. And our executive team consists of Leticia Westbay, who has been in cycling world for years. She has lots of experience in development and youth. We have Agassi Finnegan, who is an attorney, and she will be our legal mind behind all this. And then there's Hao Cheng Lee, who is a cyclist himself and a team manager for a junior team in Orange Walk. So it's a well-rounded team from all aspects.
From a layman's perspective, and I'm not much of a cycling enthusiast, admittedly, just being honest here, right?
That's
but
okay.
From a layman's point of view, when you look at sports in Belize and you look at some of these various federations, you look at the FFB, for instance, and then now you look at the Cycling Federation, there's always what appears to be a political struggle to remain in power. And then you have a group that would come with the promise of change and what have you, and one or the other either ousts or out-elects or outvotes the incumbent. What does this slate, once it is successful, what does this slate promise to bring for the average rider who just wants to be able to participate in the various races and tournaments that are scheduled throughout the course of the calendar year?
Well, first of all, we had a meeting, right? We had several cyclists came to the Ordonez bike shop, and we basically discussed with some of the cyclists, what are some of the issues that you have? One of the major issues that the cyclists have is that they've been putting in their time and they're not seeing their names, or from a reward standpoint, it's sort of like gone are the days where you had Jermaine or Gregory Lovell, Marlon Castillo, all these guys were a household name. So they're feeling that the time and effort that they put in, they would like to have that sort of recognition, right? In addition to that is the female cyclist forever has been complaining that they don't have development. We don't have a national team. We don't have a criteria for the selection of a national team. the cyclists have been clamoring that we need more races. From a federation standpoint, if they throw 5 or 6 races for the entire year, that is as much as the federation does. Then you have a lot of sponsors that would come on and do little small races, but they want to see more races. They want to see more developmental races for us to be able to compete with the foreigners coming in. In addition, they've been saying that from a financial management standpoint, they do not know how we're managing the funds. So they want to know that, is it that the sponsorship that they're getting, is it that the administration of the funds, are they getting the majority of the benefits as opposed to the cyclists? And then in addition to that is that they're also talking about, from a constitution standpoint, the fact that we don't have annual general meetings. For 4 years, persons are in and they do not see the development or the movement of the federation going forward. So these were their major concerns, and these are the areas that we are saying we would like to improve on.
I look at cycling, and and this is from a news reporter's point of view, right? I recall a couple years ago, it was a situation where persons within the cycling community had certain issues with the presidency of Emil Moreno at the time, and a lot of noise was being made to try to get him out in order for there to be some improvement in the way the federation functions on behalf of the membership. And I gather that perhaps we're in that same situation now, where the key thing here is a lack of communication. As you guys mentioned, not being able to gather annually and discuss the state of affairs within the federation.
Right.
How does this move now, going forward, bring together everybody so that you're all on the same wavelength, you're all on the same page in terms of being able to develop the sport?
Well, as we know, the cyclists are not are not used to coming to meetings, so we have to get them into that. We have to let them realize that we need to hear from you, because you are what makes a race. You are what makes the federation. So the structure needs to be built from the ground up, and that's what needs to happen to make everything just bloom. The national teams, the more races, what the cyclists are looking for with more recognition, all that needs to be implemented in a structure from the bottom up, and that needs to be done.
And being where I am now at the bike shop, it's like the unofficial hub of Belize.
Okay.
So I hear all the concerns, and now the communication will go from basically to no communication to always I'm being available for cyclists to come in and voice their concerns and what we need to do as a unit to move forward.
Now, Alexi, what made you decide on running for president of the federation?
Well,
how did you come to that point where you're offering yourself as the presidential candidate?
But like I mentioned just now, that I hear the concerns, and while being at the bike shop, I hear all the complaints from the cyclists, which was one of the reasons I got into it. And the main incentive was that I sincerely have love for cycling. When I was approached by Miss Vernon, I had to think about it for a while, because due to the situation I am in, right? And after I was hearing, the whole, we need more races, basically the complaints were, that the guys we're not moving forward, we're not having any kind of meeting for the past 4 years. So I said, you know what, I'm here all the time, I can help with this situation. So I tried to offer my service to the current federation, not just this year, not just last year, but for the past 4 years. And I haven't got any reply or any positive response from them. So now that I have a team contesting, I said I will jump on board with this team because of what the team was consists of, and what I believe we cover all angles of. Mr. John Burns is a certified public accountant. He's been with BTL for the past 25 years. Miss Karen is a events planner, well organized. Mr. Sean Duncan, he's specialized in the IT era, right? And me, like I said, I'm at the bike shop, so I hear everything. The team is a very well-rounded team, and all of us are very embedded in cycling for years now. My dad is Andrew Ordonez, which is the bike guru, as they would say in Belize, right?
I was just, yeah, I was just about to say, you come from a lineage of you know,
Yeah.
persons who have been in love with bike from God knows, right? From the repair shop to the cycling circuit, etc. Now, for people who might not be as familiar with cycling and they see Karen Vernon, you're the person who's behind Niche and all these other, the creative arts and all of these other ventures. Cycling, how did you get involved? And why did you offer yourself as well?
I've been behind the scenes for years. My children, Brandon Catus and Kaya Catus, are cyclists. Everybody knows them. They might know that I'm the mother, but you know.
Yeah.
And I've been behind them, nutrition-wise, you know, pushing them, mentoring them for years. I've been out on the road with doing servicing, and I also ride myself. So you know, I've been in the cycling world for years. Although people might not see me up front, but you know, I've been there, and I know what it is. I've heard the gripes from my children as well as other cyclists of what's happening and what's not happening and what could be happening. So and one of the concerns too is training.
Yeah.
For as John mentioned earlier, it's out there. I mean, you know, sometimes you don't even have to pay for it. You know, through UCI and the National Olympic Committee, there are training possibilities there for officials, road officials, commissionaires, national coaches, cyclists. It's out there. So, you know, we just need to tap into that and offer it to everybody.
And John?
Well, first of all, I've been doing cycling for close to 25 years or more. First of all, I was the founding member of the BTL Fusion Elite Cycling Team, and also right now I'm the manager of the BTL Digicel Weekend Warriors cycling team. So when I was asked to come on board, it has always been something that I was thinking that when I retire from BTL, it was my desire to get involved with cycling. Now, first of all, I have the desire for cycling, but that only developed. First, I used to be into weightlifting and all that kind of stuff, and then I found myself enjoying cycling. And so for me, is because of my love for the sport, and I would like to see it improve, it hurts my heart to a certain extent when I see good name cyclists. Like for example, if you think about Marlon Castillo, or if you think about Ernest Jermaine Main, all these guys had talent. Belize has talent, but we have not done enough to push them forward, right? I mean, I remember one time we had a tour in Belize where Gregory Lovell won every single sprint stage that the foreigners were like saying, wow, we're impressed. Marlon Castillo won a tour where he was all the way to so in the back, and he went through the Hummingbird Highway, and I recall him winning, and I was proud. Now my question is, if we have this talent here, why aren't we doing enough to nurture them, to push them forward?
How come their names are
right
out there?
And so it's from that standpoint where I am putting myself forward, because if I have the love for the sport and it was my desire to do it maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, the fact that I'm being asked now is the reason why I'm getting involved, and I would like to see cycling improve going forward.
By and large, when we look at cycling, it's arguably one of the most expensive sports in terms of not only the bicycle and the equipment, but the investment in oneself to keep fit and to be able to excel.
Nutrition, everything.
Are we doing enough to cultivate young athletes coming into the cycling world?
No.
Currently, no. That's one of the main reasons we're trying to get, you know, involved, because we see the need for development from a very young age. So
There's a new crop of cyclists out there, and this comes about, I guess, cycles maybe every year or so, how often it does. But there are the summer series that Kaya does, and the high school races. And out of the high school races have come many cyclists. I think she's been doing it for 2 or 3 years. And out of that high school race, you know, there have been cyclists who have gone on to become junior cyclists and have excelled. So programs like this we need to
Okay. My personal feeling is that for cycling to go forward, we need sponsorship. So clearly, as our job as the executive, if we are elected, my job is to go out there and to solicit funds, first of all, for the Association for Races. Number one, we have the Sports Council. We would ask the Sports Council to work along with us to move cycling forward. You have the UCI, which is the governing body for cycling international. The same way how you have FIFA, you have FIBA, and all these places. There are areas where we could tap into these people and ask them to assist us moving forward. Clearly, we're going to have a plan. So if we're going to have a plan, I think you will sponsor somebody if you see a clear plan. What is our plan? My plan is, our plan is not only to look on the elite cyclists, while that is the one that's out in the forefront, but those elite cyclists were once youngsters. And so we need to develop the sport from the bottom up. That includes the high schools, getting the high schools also involved. And so my point is that it takes the entire community to have a good cycling program. And it is our desire to have that done, not so much from our standpoint, but we also have sponsors. We have, like, I'm just using examples, Santino Castillo, we have BTL, we have Smart, we have all these people that are sponsoring cycling, and I'm sure they would like to see value coming in, right? And so that is what our goal is.
Let's talk about Saturday. Have you guys been able to reach out to the wider membership of the federation, perhaps in a bid for them to vote in favor of whatever you have proposed would be some of the changes that they would be able to experience should you guys be elected, in terms of your campaign and in terms of the efforts going forward?
Yeah, we have, what we did, we got the list of registered members, the final list. I hope it's the final list because we have heard differently. And it's like any election, you know, we put together a list, yes, no, maybe. And, you know, we've contacted people through phone calls, through Facebook, through person-to-person contact, and ask them for their vote and, you know, suggest if you have any concerns or anything you want to discuss, this is the time to do it. And we urge everybody to come out and vote. You know, even if you're not voting for us, we would love for you to vote for us, but come out and exercise your right to vote because, you know, this is your right, this is your time to let your voices be heard, and let's make a change.
When I look at cycling, again, perhaps I'm in the best position as someone who is not intimately involved with any one sport, so I look from an objective point of view, right? When you look at cycling, as John had mentioned earlier, back in the day you had certain names that whenever you hear, it creates a certain excitement, like cross country is coming up, and then you would hear preliminary reports of this one participating and this one, you know, making a bid for the Garland this year, having won the race 3 years ago, is making a comeback. There's that excitement and that fever leading up to Holy Saturday. But for whatever reason, perhaps we have lost our edge when it comes to being able to promote these names and being able to put them at the forefront of the sport, to where there's the buy-in, as you said, the sponsorship, and everybody who needs to play their respective roles in the development of it all. Is this something that we can see in the next year or so, depending on whether you're voted in and the life cycle of the administration? Would this be something that we would be able to look forward to?
Of course.
Okay, when we started, right, we have mentioned before that communication and marketing is one of the key or the pillars of what it is that we're trying to do. So I could see myself or ourselves reaching out to the different media houses, Channel 5, and the different ones them out there for us to have, like in the past, I remember there was one year that I rode the cross country, and it was in excess of 120 riders going forward. And when you looked up there, you saw the helicopter up there, and we saw pictures of that, like this looked like a Tour de France race. And so I am saying is that we would like to see where the different media houses join together, and we could have television and stuff for these cyclists to get the same hype. I used to remember when cross country and you heard the horn or the bugle, right? And then you hear about Kenrick Holiday, and you hear about Alfred Parks, and you hear about all these names, Marlon Castillo. We would like to bring that back. And you bring it back by marketing your people, you market your sport. That is what needs to be done. The cyclists are asking for that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the cyclists ask for in our meetings.
Just
they
like
need this recognition.
Yeah, just like communication, the whole marketing part, cycling has went down to basically nothing, you know. You know, see the cyclists on Sports Monday, you rarely hear anything in terms of cycling, you know. Even we have this social media now, right? And you think we'd have
so easy.
Yeah, so easy for to expose all of this, but yet you're still not to say anything, right?
So the biggest day in cycling is Holy Saturday, right?
Right.
It's the biggest day. However,
In Belize,
you're
right?
competing against persons going off to San Pedro, Kikaker, Placencia, Cancun on that day. Back in the day, and I hate to be reminiscing here or holding on to days gone, but back in the day, there was this idea that I won't go anywhere until I've seen the end of the race, regardless of its outcome. I won't say we only want Belizeans to win, but regardless of the outcome, I will stay and see to it that the first rider comes in before I make Easter plans. And now, I guess, because there's been somewhat of a departure from being able to market and to be able to bring everyone in, that you're essentially competing against a weekend where people figure they have a lot to do, so they will start traveling from Holy Thursday afternoon, for instance. Is it that, and I'm assuming it's the same for the New Year's Day race, where people would have an alternative or an option as opposed to getting fully engrossed in that cycling tradition of lining the road early in the morning or by the time the first peloton comes in or what have you? Is there a situation where I, as someone who would probably want to build some kind of fandom about cycling, would get that kind of feeling once a new slate comes in and is able to establish that either desire or that eagerness, that enthusiasm for the sport?
You know that feeling is still there. I'm one of those people who used to go town for, but over the past 4 or 5 years, I've stayed in town and actually followed the race. I haven't serviced. I've had the pleasure of servicing across country, but I followed the race and I've watched people line the sides of the road. People are out there at the beginning of the race, so there's still that feeling. Maybe not as much people, but I think once we build. I mean, and it's not just cross country. We have to build the other races as well. And one of the things the cyclists were asking for is more races. There are maybe 7 or 8 races on the calendar for the present federation, and there's only one race that's UCI sanctioned, and that's the National Road Championship. So they would like to see more races, and in doing so, you know, you can build the personalities, you can build the teams up to cross country where it's, you know, it's like it's the grand finale.
Okay. Well, times have changed, right? And I will be the first to admit that I'm one of those that travel from Holy Thursday or from Holy Thursday out. But you'd be surprised because I've been to San Pedro, I've been to Kikaka, and I've been to Placencia.
Everybody's tuned in.
Everybody's tuned in. If it's not on the radio, it's on the TV, right? And everybody is there. I remember this year, we were in Placencia, and around the bar, we were arguing and we were saying things, and there were several people who are enthusiasts. Times have changed. And so basically our marketing, our tool for getting out to our people has to change likewise. So we need to get to the television, we need to get to the radio, we need to use Facebook, go live and all these kind of things. So clearly from a technological standpoint, we need to bring people or rope people in using different technology to move the sport forward again.
Yeah, and getting to know the cyclist so that when you hear the name, it's not, oh, well, like, where did that person come from? That person has been riding consistently and winning for a long time. You haven't been following the races, but so that's what we need to change so that people can be aware what's happening with the races, what's happening with the cyclists, what's happening with the teams, you know, promote them.
To add to what John said as well, you know, I was far down south where there's no kind of
no TV.
No TV. You only had your Wi-Fi connection at one certain place on the island, and we had a cell phone, and everybody crowd round the cell phone for us hear what the outcome of the race still. So no matter where I go, I could go San Pedro, I could go down south.
Internationally.
Even if my people America, you know, they tuned in still in, right? So we are at the point now where, you know, technology should be taking advantage of, right? And let's use this outlet to just bring it back. But like I said, there is something that, you know, just 3 men cannot do on their own. We need other people to be involved, you know. and move as a unit, basically.
Now, aside from the slate, the executive, what exposure are we providing for our current crop of athletes? You've mentioned that there aren't enough events being held. I recall having interviewed with Kaya, where she raised the same concern, that look, yes, there's a calendar of events set out for the year, but there should be more that is being done in order to either have these individuals adequately trained or to give them the exposure that they so need based on the fact that they're putting in the work. Where do we stand at the moment? I wouldn't want to solicit from you a negative response, but what I want would be a true picture being painted of what is being done to provide the training and the exposure that cyclists need.
Have to be negative, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Over the past 4 years there, I haven't heard about anybody going out on any training.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that. I mean, you know, like our national team would leave, they would pick a national team. I'm not sure how they are picked, but you're called and told that you're in a national team. There's no training put into the national team. You're told to show up at the airport and you're given your jersey or something there. And when you're at the venue or at the country, they tell you, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the strategy we're going to use. So why not put training into this? I know that the games are coming up in August. So pick the national team in enough time so that these guys can ride together and put some training in. They can ride against maybe the other teams. You know, you throw a race specifically for that purpose to see how they match up. And you know, things like that are not being done, and these are very important.
Is it because of a lack of financial resources? I mean, I would want to think that any training, any preparation is an investment in time and money.
Yeah.
My personal feeling is that in order for you to do something like that, you need to have a plan. Mm-hmm. You need to have organization. You need to have forward thinking. I remembered, again, as so in the past, when we picked national teams or so, we used to have test races, right? I used to remember that you would have series of races throughout there, and you would be able to say, well, okay, these are the guys who are in shape, or these are the ones here. And then you would pick, say, maybe a long list of, say, maybe, I don't know, maybe 8 cyclists, 10 cyclists, and that these are the cream of the crop, and these are the guys who we're going to be using for a national team. But then before an event for us to go to, I don't know, maybe Barbados, we go to Central America and stuff like that, you would have test races, and the best out of that group, you would pick and say, you guys are going. But then you would have your training camp. You will then determine what will be your strategy, who are going to be the domestique, who are the ones to win, and you work your way out, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I am offended when we send our national team for football, basketball, or even now for cycling, and you hear that our guys did not compete well, right? Is it that we as Belizeans are incapable of doing well, or is it that our organization or administration has failed us? Mm-hmm. And it's my opinion that the administration in terms of cycling has failed us. Mm-hmm. And so what it is that we're trying to say is, we have, from our 7 here, we have an idea of what we would like to do. But it's not only 7 of us. We have several people who are knowledgeable of cycling that are willing to assist us. And so by the group of us coming down, we also have the team members. I have also mentioned that I am putting my name to assist in any way, shape, or form any administration of cycling going forward. Mm-hmm. Because I too want to see this thing improve. Mm-hmm. So short of the whole thing, our administration has failed our cyclists. And I would like to see what we can do to bring that back up again.
Mm-hmm. Your input
on the same what was said?
Yeah, the question was about the present organization, if they have done anything in regards to training.
Oh yes, nothing. And I mean, as a cyclist that's been traveling, you know, what has been put in place? You could ask the current cyclist traveling when the team went to Colombia next week, I believe. A team will be traveling, and I have no idea what type of communication the national coach is having with the team of cyclists going. I don't know if they have any training set in place. But like Mr. Burns mentioned, you know, we have to have some set plan for these type of things, right? It's the only way that it can work, right? If we continue with the same trend, you know, we just hear when we're traveling, nobody have no set schedule to say, all right, this is what we'll be doing to leading up to the event, then we'll go out there and, you know, if you fail to prepare, then you must prepare to fail, right? It's simple as that.
We have Giovanni. I see he posted Giovanni Lovell is our top time trial athlete, the best you can have.
Yeah.
And he has been picked to go to Colombia as a part of the national team. And as I said, he's a very disciplined cyclist. He's the best that we have for time trial, but he will have to do what he can on his own. Mm-hmm. There won't be any input from a national coach or anything like that before he goes. And that's the way it is. You know, you have to want this for yourself. And it's good that he was the person picked because, I mean, he will make sure that he's the best and he will make sure that he represents himself and Belize well.
How does one exist under this kind of a umbrella, under this kind of a framework?
Exactly. It's depressing, right?
Well, no, see, I mean, I could tell you right now there's been a lot of cyclists, young cyclists that I could remember that have started, that have been very promising. And right now, life is real. You need to earn your money. You need to, so a lot of cyclists with good capabilities have stopped because there's nothing to promote them, to push them forward. I could tell you right now that if I was a cyclist and I am being sent to Colombia or I am being sent to Barbados to go and compete, and we get there and we get our butts beaten up, that would discourage me. I would lose, I would say to myself, we're not capable. We can't compete at that level. And so what happens is your good quality people who have capability, they fall off the wayside because either you get discouraged, there's not enough races, there's nothing from a financial standpoint. And so most naturally, you will lose that. So what it is that we're trying to do is you build up an organization from the top to the bottom, you get the sponsorship, you give them the name recognition. Many people sometimes name recognition is what boosts them, right? Sometimes you don't even need the additional finances. Some people yes, some people no. But if you walk around and you said, hey, John Burns, you know, boy, wonderful job. I'm like, wow, you know,
Exactly.
I feel great. That is what is lacking. And I am saying, again, that for this to happen, for people not to fall by the wayside, give them a carrot, give them an incentive for them to continue. That's what we need.
Can I get final words from you guys in terms of what can be expected on Saturday and perhaps maybe a pitch? I would give you that opportunity to be able to rally as many of the supporters to come out on Saturday and vote, if not in your favor, at least to participate. Let's start with you, Alexi.
Well, I would, you know, ask the cyclists to, you know, ask yourselves, where have we grown in the past 4 years? In terms of communication, when was the last time you guys had any kind of meeting with your president, with the entire current body of the Cycling Federation? When was the last time you guys had any development programs to say that, you know, we're trying to start from the bottom and helping, you know, people at a very young age come. In terms of training, you know, ask yourself all these things. Where have all the big races gone? You know, national team selections, you know, think about everything on a whole, not just, you know, what is being promised or the rumors that are being spread out there, you know. Sincerely ask yourself, where do we want to see cycling from here on, right? And like I said, our team composed of people from, you know, a wide range that's willing to help, and why not for the betterment, you know. If you guys want to be underneath the same umbrella, then by all means, you know, you come out and you vote for the same thing and have the same thing happening. Or if you want a change, then you come out and vote for the change.
Correct?
He said a lot. I'd just like to add to that and encourage registered members to come out. It's not just cyclists that's on the list. It's officials,
Support
team
staff.
managers, support staff. So I like to encourage people to come out and exercise your right to vote. It's this Saturday at UWI Auditorium at 3 p.m. For the people in Belmopan and Cayo, we are trying our best to put together a bus to bring in the people from that area so that, you know, they can come and vote. And I urge you to come out and exercise your right to vote and vote for a Team Upward Bound that will try our best to provide, with the assistance of the general cycling community, cycling improvement and build the sport.
And John?
From my standpoint is I would like for the cyclists and all the support staff, all people of interest that are interested in cycling, for you to come out and make your voices heard. I do not want for, after this election, for people to still complain that the sport is not going forward, because you have to basically work along with whoever is being administering the sport. You need to come and work along with the guy. You cannot just stay in the background and say, you guys will do it. We all need to do it. And so what I would like to see is that everybody comes out and you vote, make your voices heard, and whether or not if we are successful, wonderful and great. If we're not, I'm just hoping that the new administrator, whoever that group is that we push cycling going forward. As for me, I am putting myself out there that I am willing to assist cycling going forward in any area whatsoever. I think we have a good slate here, and I would like to see they give us a chance to move cycling forward.
Thanks for having joined me this morning, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take our final commercial break, and when we return, it's to wrap up the show for today.